Last time on what everyone should know about Abraham.
Our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the answer of the dua of Ibrahim alayhi salam.
In today's episode,
If you're the person who didn't know about the wrong answer, you just heard everybody else give the wrong answer, why would you give the wrong answer?
Because everybody else gave the wrong answer.
Because if everybody gave the wrong answer, they can't all be wrong. So it's probably I'm the one who's wrong. I have to trust my mind. I have to trust my ability to think. I don't trust just because everybody else is doing it. Just because lots of people are doing it. Right? This is the first thing that we learned from Ibrahim alayhi salam.
with stars above, the sun and the moon, a boy asked questions and searched for the truth. He smashed their lies, so into the blaze they threw, but to their surprise, the fire stayed cool. He sacrificed a ram, submitting to God's rule, and built with his son a legacy renewed. What everyone should know about Abraham alayhi salam.
Bismillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een, amma ba'd. We have a long day today. We've got a lot of things to cover, but in order for me to make sure you guys learn what you learn well, I'm going to try to break it up into little parts and then quiz you on it to make sure you learned it, and then move on to the next little part and keep going in tiny chunks, okay? The first thing I want to tell you is that there are lots and lots of religions in the world. Islam is just one of them. Right? And what makes Islam unique is that we believe in a God who you cannot see, who you cannot touch, whose voice you cannot hear, you cannot draw him, you cannot visualize him, you can't meet with him yet. We'll meet with him eventually, you can't meet with him yet, right? And there's other things that's different about this one, God, Allah, that we believe in also. But people might, when you go to school or you meet other people in other societies, some people you meet might be Hindu, some people might be Buddhist, some people might be Christian, some people might be Jewish, some people might be Taoist, or some people might be atheists. There could be all kinds of people, right? And they all have a different way of thinking about God, or lots of gods, or no God at all, etc., right? And you say, okay, well, they have their way, they have their religion, and we have our religion. It's, anybody's choice. Right? It's called freedom of religion. You guys have heard of freedom of religion before, right? What I want to share with you today is that many other religions have they have something in common, and we're kind of different from all of them. Muslims are different from all of them put together. And there are two basic other kinds of religions. There's other religions that are from prophets, and then they got changed. Like we believe the Jewish religion and the Christian religion are from Musa alayhi salam and from Isa alayhi salam. They're from prophets, but what the prophets taught was lost over time. So it used to be Islam, it became the Jewish religion. It used to be Islam, it became Christianity. So it kind of transformed, but it's actually kind of a transformed version of Islam itself. Like it's a lost version of Islam. So you could talk to somebody from those religions like the Quran does, and it reminds them, by the way, you guys used to originally be Muslim. Let's go back to what you used to be originally. So it reminds them of that by talking about those prophets, right? So those are religions that started in the same place. They have the same starting point as us. They're actually also Islam, but the lost versions of them. You with me? You understand me so far? Like, so in order for you to really understand that, the people that they believe in, Moses, for the Jews, for example, do we believe in Musa alayhi salam? Yeah, we do. But what they believe about him is very different from what we believe about him, right? So we go back to them and say, hey, what you believe about him, some of that's true, some of that you guys kind of changed over time, so we're going to fix it for you. Allah revealed it again, so you could get the story straight. The same thing with Jesus, Isa alayhi salam. They have a version of Isa alayhi salam, an understanding of Isa alayhi salam, the Christians do, and the Quran comes and says, yes, but that's not actually what happened, here's what happened. Right, so it's retelling the story. So they have a story, and the Quran's telling it all over again. By the way, Ibrahim alayhi salam is very important to them too, to both of them. This Saturday, I'm not going to talk to you about them so much. But in another program, inshallah, I plan on comparing the Ibrahim of the Jews, the Ibrahim of the Christians, and then the Ibrahim of the Muslims. Because I think it's important to understand that. But that's another day, inshallah. But I want to talk to you about the other religions. So there's one religion, one group of religions that are from the prophets. We could still tell which prophets, even though they don't look like Islam anymore, at least we can tell which prophets they're connected to. Like I just quizzed you. So let me ask you, the Jewish religion connected to which prophet? Musa alayhi salam, very good. And the Christian religion connected to which prophet? You can call it out, Isa alayhi salam, very good. Okay, but then there are other religions that don't look like they're connected to any prophet. They're just, I believe in like these different gods. There's a God that controls wealth. There's a God that controls the rain. There's a God that controls whether or not somebody's going to have a baby. There's a God that controls war. There's a God that controls love. There's a God that controls health. There's different gods, and they all have their different departments. So if you're a farmer and you really want to make the farm grow, but it's not raining, you better not go to the God of war. You better go to the God of what? Rain, and talk to the God of rain and say, hey, I need some rain. It's kind of dry over here, right? So you got to know which, just like, if you have a medical problem, you're not going to go to the car mechanic, right? If you have a car problem, you're not going to go to the doctor, right? So if you have one, so what people did in their religions in the world is they had these different gods, and each god was kind of in charge of a different problem. Right? They were all in charge of different problems. And this became something in many, many religions in the world, in ancient religions, right? What happened with human beings was when they lost Allah's teachings, when they lost the real teachings of Islam, human beings lived on this earth like we live now, and they're like, we really need the sun. Like the sun's very important. So who's in charge of the sun? Must be the sun god. We really need rain. There must be a what? A rain god. Oh, we live by the ocean. There might be a huge tsunami wave and the whole town's going to flood. There must be a god of the ocean, right? So we should make sure that we don't make the ocean god angry, right? There must be a wind god, because sometimes there's a windstorm. That must mean the wind god is angry with us, etc. Right? So whatever human being, we really need wealth. So there must be a what? Wealth god. Or we're about to go to war. We need help. There may be a war god that's going to help us win against our enemy. Or there's a protection god, right? Or I really want to have a baby. Oh, there must be a baby god. Like you go to them and they make sure you have a baby, etc. Right? So in different religions, they have these different gods. Each one of them takes care of a different problem. You understand that much so far? Okay. Now here's the next thing that happened in many religions. Those gods don't care about you. In most of these religions, those gods actually don't care about you. They do, but they get upset very easily. So you have to make sure you don't make those gods angry. If you do something wrong, then they're going to get really upset with you. And if the rain god gets upset with you, either the rain god will make it stop raining forever, or it's going to rain so much that everybody's going to drown and die. So you better make sure the rain god doesn't get upset with you, okay? So these gods, and how do you communicate with the rain god? What many religions did is they made a statue, and they said the spirit of the rain god kind of came inside this statue. So they would build a statue, and the guy who's building the statue, he's got some stones, he's got some marble, he's got some wood, he's putting this thing together, he's carving the nose, he's making the ears, he's doing all this stuff. And he knows he's just making a statue, he's making a figurine. He knows it's not a god. So when he was done making the statue, they would have a special ceremony, and they would say, the spirit of the rain god is coming inside the statue now. And then when the ceremony is done, now officially the spirit of the rain god is inside this thing. This is now the god himself. This is the rain god himself. Now you better treat this god, if you're near this god, you better treat it with respect. You better show respect to it, right? So what then happened is they would build these statues, but these statues have to be kept in special places. Because these statues are special, because each one of them is their own god. So you have to build kind of a palace or a temple for that statue. and you have to put it in a place where it's safe, because you know nobody should disrespect this statue. If some kid shows up, you know when kids come to the masjid, sometimes kids come to the masjid with their crayons and they start, right? Or sometimes people start throwing things or ripping things, or kids do crazy things. If somebody's kid comes up in the temple, and he's kind of like picks his nose and puts it on the statue or something, you might get the whole village gets flooded, and the kid's like, what? You know, right? So they have to make sure the god is safe and protected and respected, and you don't mess around with it, etc. And here's so one thing I told you is those gods, they get angry easily, right? One thing you learn about them is they get angry easily. The second thing you learn about them is they don't do things for you for free. They will do something for you when you do something for them. So you have to give them something. You have to give them an offering. You have to bring food to them. You have to clean them. Actually, in some religions, they would draw the gods with a mouth and a nose and an ears, and they would wash the mouth and the ears every day to make sure they could hear them. So there was always Windex next to the god, like this. Right? Anyway, so you have to bring the god something, and when you give the god something, then the god will give something to you, right? So you sacrifice an animal in front of it, you put food in front of it, you put other stuff in front of it, you put flowers on it, etc. You build it a nice temple, and now, finally, you can have a baby. Now you could have, good food on the crop this year. Or now the enemy will not attack you, or you'll be able to defeat your enemy, etc. Right? That's how these gods were. Then there's the next problem. So the first problem was these gods they don't really care much about you, and they get angry easily. The second was they don't give you something until you give them something. It's kind of like a business deal. Kind of like that. You better pay your taxes, and then they're going to do something for you, right? That's the second. So there's a big word I'll use for you is they were transaction gods. There's a big transaction going on between these gods. A third thing that used to happen is that these gods, because there's only so many humans, right? Let's just say there's 100 people in a little village, and there's a rain god, and there's a sun god, and there's a wind god, and you keep going to the rain god every day. What happens to the sun god? Look, I feel a little left out over here, right? He gets jealous. So you have to make sure that you keep all of them happy. And they don't just get jealous of you. They don't just get mad at you because you're ignoring them. Who else do these gods get mad at? The other god. You're right. The other gods. Look, who do you think you are? And so these gods have a problem with each other. So if you study the religions in which there are lots of gods, like Greek mythology, for example, or Hindu mythology, for example, or other mythology, you have these gods, and these gods also go to war with who? With each other. And if they find that you are helping or you are showing love and sacrifice or gifts to one of the gods, they're like, oh, you like that god, huh? Oh, watch what I do with you. Okay? Your baby's going to be ugly now because you ignored me. Right? So these gods are pretty scary. They're pretty scary. So people were scared of them, people respected them, and people went to them when they wanted something. Right? This was the majority of the people on this planet were following these kinds of religions for thousands of years. This is not some people. This is the majority. This was the normal. This was the normal for everybody. Ibrahim alayhi salam was born in a family that lived in a village in Mesopotamia. The place is called Mesopotamia. You don't have to remember that. But it had this kind of a religion. They had lots of gods, and they had these statues, and you had to take care of each of these statues, and all of that. And he was a kid, he was born in those places, and he was taught from the beginning, this one helps you with this one helps you with that. Do you have a question, my dear? Tell me your question.
You know when you said there are only so many people in this world, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if I'm not sure, they just make more gods than themselves? Isn't that just dumb? Isn't that just dumb?
It gets dumber, you're right. it's a good thought. So now, Ibrahim alayhi salam, he's not a prophet, he's just a kid. He's just a kid. And he was raised and he was taught, these are the gods and this is what you have to take care of. And they had many mini gods, but then we learn, actually, now we know some things about their religions. They had tiny little statues that you could take home with you. So they had big life-size or like a 10-foot tall idol that is supposed to be the moon god. But then they had a action figure version of the moon god too that you could take home for $5.99. Right? And they would sell those so that people can't always come to the temple, but they still want to be able to talk to that God. So they would have a mini version of that you could take home with you and you could just talk to the God over there. You understand? So they had these thousands of them, but three big ones were the sun god, the moon god, and the star god, because they really looked at the sky a lot, and the sky is so much bigger than the earth. So they thought the main gods are up in the sky. And what are the three things you see in the sky? The sun, the star, and the moon. So the giant statues were a sun statue, a guy that has a sun helmet kind of thing, then a moon helmet kind of thing, and a star helmet kind of thing, like the Jupiter helmet kind of thing. That's what they had. Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he was young, he did something. He started looking at what his family was doing, what everybody was doing, and he thought it was weird. It didn't make sense to him. It didn't make sense to him. This is probably one of the most important things you'll learn today. How do you know something is normal? Does anybody have thoughts about that? How do you know if something is normal? Tell me.
About their voice?
About their voice? Okay, let me make my question a little clearer. Like, for example, there's a street and every car is driving that way. And you see one car driving this way. Which car is not acting normally? Most of them, are most of them wrong, or is one of them wrong, is my question. You can call it out. One of them's wrong. How do you know one of them is wrong? How do you know all of them are right and that one of them is wrong? How do you know that? What are your thoughts? Yes. Everyone else is going in one direction. So you know what? Okay, let me ask you this. You're in a class, everybody's quiet and writing, they're doing a writing assignment. And one kid gets up on a desk and starts singing the national anthem. Who's normal here? Who's normal? Most of the kids are normal. Who's not normal? The patriot, the one that's singing. How do you know he's not normal? Not just because he's your cousin, but also because everybody's doing one thing, you're doing something different. Our idea of normal comes from what are most people doing. You understand? Our idea of normal comes from what? What everybody's, if everybody's doing it, that must be normal. When Ibrahim alayhi salam was a kid, all the other kids were behaving and doing the same things in the temples as their parents and everybody in society, and they would have their rituals at the temple, and they would all talk about this God and that God and that God. Everybody was doing that, which means to him, it should look like all of that is what? That's normal. That's normal. And when he starts questioning it, who's the only one who's weird? Him. He's the one that's weird. Now I'll tell you about an experiment. I want to see what you guys think about that experiment. This is something that was done at a university a long time ago, but I want to see if you guys can see what's going on. They did this experiment. You know what? Maybe I should do this experiment with you right now. How many people here are good at math? I don't know if I could do this experiment. I don't trust your mathematics. I don't trust your math. Let's just pretend with you. Let's just say I gave you a question. I gave you 366 multiplied by 452. Something. No, don't solve it. Relax. Right? Let's just say I gave you that question, right? And I told you to give me the answer, one by one. But there's a trick. I already told all of you on purpose to give me the wrong answer. All of you. But I told you secretly, give me the wrong answer. Except, what's your name? Except Maryam, I didn't tell Maryam. Maryam has no idea that everybody else is supposed to give me the wrong answer. So I do the experiment, everybody does the problem. Maryam thinks everybody's solving the problem like she's solving the problem. And you all solve the problem, and one person gives me the wrong answer. And Maryam says, that's wrong. The second person says the same wrong answer. And Maryam says, yeah, that's wrong. The third person, and Maryam starts thinking what? Wait, maybe I should go over my answer. The fourth person says the same wrong answer. The fifth person says the same wrong answer. The sixth person, the seventh, the 10th person, the 20th person. By the time you get to 50 people, what's Maryam thinking? I thought I knew math. I know nothing. Why can't I get this right? So even if she can't figure it out, I ask 50 people, and then I come to Maryam. And Maryam has two answers on her paper. She has the answer that everybody else gave, and she has the right answer which she figured out herself. What do you think Maryam is going to tell me? You think Maryam, what would you tell me? The right answer or the wrong answer? What do you think? Okay.
The right answer?
Why would you tell me the right answer?
Because what if the other people were wrong? You never know.
So,
why.
you would think everybody was wrong?
What if everyone got it wrong, though?
Everybody got it wrong the same exact way?
What if it happened, though? It could happen. Or
That's how
maybe
you would
it was
think?
a trick.
What if it, but I told you it was a trick. I want you to think, maybe you would. And they did this experiment at a university with college students. And they gave everybody the wrong answer, and one person didn't have the right answer. And then they would ask that person. And most of the time, that person, what do you think? They gave the right answer or the wrong answer? What do you think? Yeah, they gave the wrong answer. Very few people gave the right answer, and they basically said what Maryam said, I don't care if they all got it wrong. I know I'm right. I just know I'm right. Those are very strong-headed people. They didn't let the majority decide what is normal. You understand? Now, the people who gave the wrong answer, they were asked, why did you give the wrong answer? So if I asked you, if you were one of those people who gave the wrong answer, imagine, if you're one of those people, what do you think your reason would be? I want to hear your reason. Why would you give the wrong answer? Yes? That's because I said to give no. If you didn't know, if you're the person who didn't know about the wrong answer, you just heard everybody else give the wrong answer, why would you give the wrong answer?
Because everybody else gave the wrong answer.
Because if everybody gave the wrong answer, they can't all be wrong. So it's probably I'm the one who's wrong. Wait, you already had a chance? Yes.
I cannot be the only one that is right.
I can't be the only one that's right. Absolutely. How can you say everyone is wrong? You're the only one who's right? That can't be right. Must be something wrong with me. There must be something wrong with me. By the way, Maryam, if you gave the right answer, right? Imagine that all the people here gave the wrong answer and you gave the right answer. What do you think everybody would do?
Everyone would think that I'm the wrong one because I did a different answer.
Yeah, and everybody would stare at you. You would give the right answer and everybody would be like, what? And would that feel weird a little bit that everybody's staring at you?
Yeah.
It would. It would. Because if you give the right answer, and you're the only one who gave the right answer, everybody else thinks that you are weird. You're wrong. You don't belong, right? Is that a comfortable feeling or uncomfortable feeling? That's pretty uncomfortable. I want you to keep this in mind when we talk about Ibrahim alayhi salam. You can give it a break. Ibrahim alayhi salam was the only one who had questions. Which means, first of all, he didn't think normal comes from other people. Normal does not come from what other people are doing. Normal comes from what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. I have to trust my mind. I have to trust my ability to think. I don't trust just because everybody else is doing it. just because lots of people are doing it, right? This is the first thing that we learn from Ibrahim alayhi salam. People like to follow the majority. People like to stay comfortable by doing what everybody else is doing. But Ibrahim alayhi salam is a young man who knows, I'm not going to do what everybody else does, I'm going to do what I think is right. But I'm going to use my mind to get there. So let's figure out how he does this. I'm going to read something to you from the Quran about, this is by the way, young Ibrahim. I told you two kinds of Ibrahim, right? Young Ibrahim and old Ibrahim. So this is the beginning of young Ibrahim.
Here's a sneak peek of the next episode of What Everyone Should Know About Abraham.
You start with, Allah said so. Then you're like, Jahannam. Then you're like, oh, you're not afraid of Jahannam? You don't need to worry about Jahannam. I'll give you a preview right now. Right? But if you did that, if instead of asking questions, if you just said, you better pray because I told you to pray, did you actually make the child think? No, you didn't make them think. Ibrahim alayhi salam is not trying to convert his father. Ibrahim alayhi salam is trying to make his dad what? Think. And the best way to get someone to think is to ask them questions.